Four people find themselves in a castle surrounded by a group of mages in dark cloaks and a staff. The beautiful princess in front of them, with knights and mages around her, looks at them in admiration. The mages celebrate the hero's arrival, and one of them asks for permission to inspect their powers using a mirror-like tool. The mage is amazed when the first hero he checks turns out to be a wielder of a holy sword. He shifts to the next hero, and the device reveals her as a wielder of multiple elemental magic. The heroes look shocked, but the princess is excited with the result, begging them to save her kingdom, Reincarnates, as they are its only hope. Another hero, with a corporate dressing, wonders if they've been summoned to another world. The mage notices him and examines him with the device. His name is Mukoda Tsuyoshi, a 27-year-old man, and his unique skill is online grocery shopping, shocking everyone. They question the usefulness of this ability, and Mukoda, feeling ashamed, asks if he has any other ability. But the mage reveals he only has one. As the other heroes captivate everyone's attention, a mage urges Mukoda to meet with the king. The king reveals the Demon King's attack on Reincarnates, and also reveals the demon has a way to send them back to their worlds. Driven by their desire for justice, the heroes readily offer assistance. However, Mukoda is suspicious and convinces them he would be a hindrance in battle, so he asks them to exclude him. While roaming the kingdom, Mukoda counts his coins and wonders if it'll be enough. Noticing his odd appearance, he decides to get new clothes before gathering information. With new attire, Mukoda explores village stores, reserves a room, and remains suspicious of the royal family. Grateful he didn't volunteer as a hero, he chooses to leave the country as soon as possible. While resting, he checks his status window, fascinated by his unique skill. Online grocery. He attempts to use it, but doesn't make much progress. After several tries, he finds a modern shopping website in his status window, selecting items but facing difficulties getting the items due to insufficient balance. Using his coins, he sees items materialize and recognizes the usefulness of this ability. The next day, Mukoda takes a carriage to the land of Keels. In the carriage, he meets a traveling merchant who tells him about the value of appraisal and item box skills. Hearing about the brewing trouble and the kingdom's rumored border closure, Mukoda becomes cautious. Arriving at the next town, he finds out travel services are suspended due to wars. Advised to leave, he heads to an inn to gather information. Learning the suspension was to enable the recruitment of citizens for wars, Mukoda decides to flee. At the Adventure Inn, he pays a fee to request adventurers for protection. Introduced to Werner, the leader of Ironwill, along with Vincent, Rita, Ramon, and Franca, they agree to leave immediately. During their trip, Mukoda impresses them with his cooking skills, hiding the online store aspect. Encountering monsters, the team butcher a red boar, with Mukoda storing it in his item box. They decide to stop for dinner, and Mukoda prepares a meal but avoids much use of his online store ingredients. While eating, a wolf-like entity observes them. The next day, as they get closer to the next kingdom, the group makes camp. Mukoda cooks for the group. But the wolf appears while eating and demands the same meals. Without hesitation, Mukoda agrees. And after multiple meals, the Fenrir forms a familiar contract, looking forward to 3 meals a day. After forming a familiar contract, Fenrir asks Mukoda to name him, but Fenrir doesn't like the names given to it, so Mukoda decides to name it Fel, which he accepts. Mukoda and his group continue their journey, with the legendary beast Fel accompanying them, so they worry about entering the kingdom with Fel, who is feared for being able to destroy entire countries. Werner points out the potential pursuit due to Mukoda's familiar contract with Fenrir, but Fel assures Mukoda he'll handle everything, and they take a lunch break. Running out of red boar meat, Mukoda asks Fel to hunt for his own meal, and Fel complies, providing a massive rock bird. Amazed, the adventurers butcher it in exchange for some of its part, after which Mukoda cooks it. They face soldiers at the kingdom's border due to Fel. After assurances, they enter, but Mukoda intends to explore this new world and use his online grocery skill. Werner recommends he gets guild registration for entry tax immunities. Confused between which of the guilds he should choose, Franca's advises Mukoda to consider joining both the adventurers and merchant guilds. At the city, Mukoda pays entry taxes again, much to his heartache, and a servant of Marquis Rindel's approaches, insisting Mukoda goes to see his master. But Fel intimidated the servant. The adventurers, separate from Mukoda, and he decides to join the merchant guild. At the guild, Fel attracts attention, but Mukoda goes to the receptionist. He later joins as an iron-ranked merchant planning to travel and open stores. The next day, he sells high-quality salt and pepper, gaining 17 gold coins. At the Adventurers Guild, Mukoda registers and accepts a quest before returning home. Fel requests garlic-flavored steaks, but Mukoda realizes garlic is harmful to dogs and proceeds to check out his stats. He is really shocked with Fel's stats and starts complimenting him. Fel acts like it's not a big deal, but in his eyes, he's still just a glutton. The next morning, Fel demands Mukoda make a meal before his quest. During the quest, Fel hunts monsters, and Mukoda gathers herbs. Mukoda later prepares lunch, with Fel contributing a rock bird. After enjoying the meal, they head to town. Fel carries Mukoda, and despite the speed, Mukoda whines about exhaustion. In the Adventurers Guild, Mukoda submits herbs, impressing the receptionist. After being paid, Mukoda tries to sell monsters hunted by Fel. Initially skeptical, the receptionist agrees, and the butcher comes to meet Mukoda, confirming Fel was actually a Fenrir, not a great wolf. After getting home, Mukoda cooks the orc meat, but was initially hesitant to eat it. Once he did, Mukoda was impressed and decided not to judge ingredients without trying them. The next morning, he collects meat from the butcher, earning 202 gold coins. To avoid attention, Mukoda decides to refer to Fel as a great wolf and travels outside the village. Fel reveals gaining buffs from Mukoda's meals and decides to hunt without wasting them. After a successful hunt, Mukoda wakes up surrounded by defeated monsters. Mukoda and Fel have breakfast, with the former explaining how the meal is prepared. Interested in magic, Mukoda tries to cast fire magic but fails. Fel helps him feel mana flow, and Mukoda manages to cast a weak fireball. Fel takes Mukoda for combat training against goblins. Mukoda runs away at first, but after Fel's instruction, he uses fire magic to ward off the goblins and passes out. Waking up, Fel praises Mukoda on his performance and notices an improvement in him. Checking his stats, Mukoda sees he has fire magic. Fel brings a Goblin King as a gift, intending to sell it, but Mukoda declines, stating previous earnings. Mukoda falls from fatigue, but buys bread and sweets, and Fel asks for more. Mukoda warns him he could get sick. However, Fel reveals that he can't thanks to the goddess blessing. In the next town, soldiers question Fel's presence, but Mukoda explains Fel is his familiar. The soldiers warn Mukoda of his duty and will be punished if anything goes wrong, which he accepts despite being afraid. Mukoda explores the town, gains information at a bar, and learns about wars and dungeons. Buying a map for 1 gold coin, Mukoda realizes he was duped, as it actually cost 1 silver coin from the Adventurers Guild. Mukoda and Fel go traveling the next day, but Mukoda is still hurt from being ripped. So Fel consoles him, and he decides to head east to a country close to the sea. But Fel is only concerned about how delicious the sea monsters are. The goddess observes Fel and Mukoda during dinner, and at the ocean, Fel uses electricity magic to paralyze fishes, and Mukoda prepares a meal. Nearly stepping on a weak slime, Mukoda names it Sui, after it forms a familiar contract with it, and decides to take it along. Mukoda cares for Sui, training it to help with chores. Sui wakes Mukoda one morning, and Fel reveals a revelation from the goddess Ninrir. To gain her blessing, Mukoda must offer sweets from another world on the altar weekly. But Mukoda soon realizes the goddess is only interested in the sweets. After making the offering, Mukoda receives a modest blessing, which enhances his magic and disables any lethal status that isn't lethal enough to kill him. Mukoda trains and notices improvements in his magic, much to Sui's excitement, and he acknowledges Sui is also growing stronger. Fel arrives and notices they had something to eat, but Mukoda reveals he got tired from training and has some chocolates. Claiming to be tired, Fel asked for some chocolate too, which Mukoda reluctantly gave him. Suddenly, he receives a revelation from the goddess who wants him to offer chocolates and some dorayaki to her, wondering if it was a request or a revelation. He does as he is told. Mukoda questions Fel about being in front of a cave, learning it's a newly formed dungeon. Fel intends to improve Mukoda's earth magic through battle. Despite initial resistance, Fel throws Mukoda into the dungeon, claiming it's full of weaklings. After using buffs from his online store, Fel, Mukoda, and Sui go into the dungeon. As they walk through the dungeon, they are attacked by various monsters which Mukoda and Sui defeat as Fel escorted them. He also reveals to Mukoda that dungeons are like living things, so anyone killed in it is eaten by the dungeon. Reaching the dungeon's lower levels, Mukoda and Sui manage to defeat all the kobold, but the king appears. Despite being scared at first, he manages to attack with his stone bullet, but it barely does harm to the king. So Mukoda throws a bigger stone that does some damage. However, it isn't enough, and he's left exhausted from using too much magic. Thankfully, he's saved from the king attack by the barrier, and Sui finishes the king with its acid before Mukoda passes out. Upon waking, Mukoda learns Sui gained speech and inquires about Fel. Fel returns with blood on his mouth, revealing he went hunting since Mukoda was unconscious. Mukoda scolds Fel for lying about the barrier's strength, but Fel insists it allowed him to use his full power. After shopping online, Mukoda prepares a special meal and they enjoy it together. Sui affectionately calls Fel uncle, much to his embarrassment, but reluctantly accepts after Sui starts crying. While traveling through a forest, Fel explains it is occupied by orthrus and griffins. Mukoda is scared, but Fel insists on facing them. Fel effortlessly dispatches the orthrus and begins explaining his technique, impressing Sui, who expresses interest in acquiring similar abilities. But Mukoda praises Sui's acid-spewing skill. While camping in the forest, Mukoda prepares a meal in the forest, and they enjoy it together. The next day, they find healing mushrooms, and Sui gains the ability to create potions. Mukoda scans the potion and realizes its healing properties, causing Fel to applaud Sui's intelligence. Encountering a talking griffin, it challenges Fel to a duel and loses. Mukoda heals the griffin's injuries with Sui's potion, earning its gratitude and a feather to protect Fel's descendants from harm in the future. They finally manage to leave the forest the next day. While checking the map, Mukoda reveals they are almost out of meat and runs out to the nearest town, but stops as soon as he notices a carriage being attacked, which he rescued in exchange for a luxurious meal. After the merchant, Lambert and the adventurers introduce themselves. They ask if Fel is his familiar, and Mukoda says yes. Also, heading to the Leonhardt, Mukoda decides to tag along with them. Mukoda forgets the goddess offering, causing her to sulk beside the well, until she suddenly notices Mukoda praying. However, she's annoyed because Mukoda forgot his offering, so he's prepared to offer all kinds of otherworldly desserts to the goddess, which she really likes, and she demands that he offers the same amount henceforth. Mukoda, accompanied by Fel and Sui, continues his journey with the caravan. He wonders how the news about Fel spreads, and one of the adventurers explains that the guild has a tool of teleportation for sending letters. Meanwhile, the adventurers question whether Fel was a great wolf or a Fenrir. When the caravan stops, Fel reminds Mukoda of the promised feast, leading to a cooking session in a secluded place. The adventurers join in, and as a reward, they offer to take the night watch. Mukoda attempts to register at the Adventurers Guild, but he is revoked of his license due to inactivity, prompting him to register again and add Sui to his familiar list. In Carolina, Lara's group witnesses Fel's power and high-level monsters killed by it. After realizing all the meat used the previous day for their meal, the group of adventurers apologizes to Mukoda, but he doesn't mind at all, and as a sign of their gratitude, they offer to be of aid to him. Mukoda plans his next move, balancing his role as an adventurer with his commitment to Fel. The goddess reminds him to offer sweets regularly. The next morning, Mukoda goes to the Adventurers Guild for a quest that suits him as he wanted to reach the F rank. While initially opting to gather herbs after much pressure from his familiar, he gives in to hunting goblins to rank up faster. Sui evolves into a big slime after helping melt the goblin bodies. Mukoda reflects on his swift progress in the Adventurers Guild and worries about the consequences of his actions. Ninrir is happily eating the sweets offered to her by Mukoda, but doesn't know she's being watched by other goddesses. Mukoda goes to the Adventurers Guild and attracts much attention due to his multiple bags full of goblin ears. As a reward for handling the goblin settlement, Mukoda receives an unexpected reward from the guildmaster, Williams. The meeting leads to an alliance for Mukoda and Fel to help the royal palace in times of need. William offers to increase Mukoda rank to C in exchange for Fel help instead of rank F, which Fel accepted much to William's excitement. The guild prepares to purchase monsters from Mukoda, but financial constraints prevent them from acquiring Chimera and Orthrus. Sui expresses a desire to become stronger like Fel, spurring concern from Mukoda. The following day, Mukoda earns a C-rank card and payment for his monsters, totaling over 2,000 gold coins. William assigns a quest to hunt metal lizards and bloody hornbulls, describing their unique abilities. Despite Fell's willingness to go on the quest immediately, Mukoda decides to wait until the next morning. Shopping at Lambert's store comes to be a gesture of gratitude, with Lambert refusing payment and expressing gratitude for Mukoda's previous assistance. Fell whines about the time spent, but Mukoda considers it worthwhile. Preparing for the quest, Mukoda treats his familiars to a feast and promises to go all out in cooking. As they enjoy the meal, Mukoda reflects during the time spent alone, appreciating the friendship with his familiars under the moonlight. Ninrir is eating Mukoda, offering alone as the other goddess watches, saying it's unfair for her to keep it all to herself. Mukoda, with Fell's guidance, quickly locates the lizard in a cave, revealing it has evolved into a mithril lizard with magic resistance. Fell easily defeats the creature, leaving Mukoda astonished. They swiftly move to hunt the violent bloody hornbulls, and after a powerful display from Sui, the familiars enjoy a satisfying lunch. Returning to the guild, the master and butcher express disbelief at the lizard being a mithril lizards. Overwhelmed by the rarity and the subsequent reward, Mukoda almost blacks out, but Johann comforts him. Settling the Red Bull matter, Mukoda brings the bulls out of his item box, surprising everyone. While going home, Mukoda reflects on his involvement in crucial matters, but the simple joy of sharing delicious meals with his familiars motivates him. The next day, the earth goddess Kasharli and the fire goddess Agni blessed him despite his hesitation. While the water goddess, Rusalka, is unable to bless Mukoda and begins crying, Mukoda lets her bless Sui, and since she was more cautious with her blessing compared to the rest, it was even stronger. The next day, while testing powers, Mukoda acknowledges the significance of the blessings, and Sui impresses everyone. As Mukoda proceeds to train in earth magic, Fell goes hunting and returns to find Mukoda showcasing his newly completed house, formed using earth magic. The group sleeps comfortably inside the house Mukoda created with earth magic, which he is very proud of. With Mukoda now a C-rank adventurer, daily hunting isn't important. Instead, they return to Lambert to sell the black serpent skin, earning Mukoda more money. After selling the serpent parts, Mukoda explores his online grocery store, buying soap and conditioner. To avoid suspicion, he decides to change their containers. Later, he meets Lambert, who not only pays him for the serpent skin, but also shows great excitement about partnering with Mukoda. Lambert gives his wife the conditioner and soap, and in return, his wife urges Mukoda to sell these items through Lambert's shop, believing they would be popular among women. Mukoda agrees, and the next day, he spends hours filling bottles and extending his business. As he enters William's office, he is shocked by the stack of gold bags, thinking about his bathtub. An emergency quest is announced due to lower-rank adventurers being attacked by wyverns. Rushing to the scene, Mukoda surprises everyone by providing high-quality potions, instantly healing the injured adventurers. William then calls for a quest to hunt the wyverns, and Fell offers to handle it alone in exchange for right over the meat. Mukoda reluctantly joins the battlefield with Fell, witnessing Sui's transformation into a formidable fighter against flying creatures. After the battle, Mukoda cooks lunch for his familiars, while talking about their favorite flavors. The villagers anxiously await their return, but then they decide to just relax in the field, having defeated the wyvern threat. The other three heroes express concern about Mukoda's safety due to his skill level. Meanwhile, back at the guild, concerns intensify as Mukoda and his familiar are yet to return. When they finally arrive, Fell explains that they have settled the issue. Williams offers to have Johann butcher the wyvern for free, but he can only pay half for the materials. Amid the unrest, Mukoda forgets to give the goddesses their offering, leading to their argument. As he walked through the village, the locals stared at him and his familiar, now known for defeating the wyvern. Mukoda pays up front for his dream tub, excitedly leaving the shop. In the forest, Fell places a barrier on Mukoda before going to hunt, while Mukoda prepares for his much-anticipated bath. After the bath, enjoying milk with Sui, Mukoda prepares a meal with the wyvern meat. Unexpectedly, a dragon falls, and we learn that Fell killed it, feeling unsatisfied with just the wyvern. Mukoda, however, complains about the challenges of selling and handling high-rank monster parts. He insists that Fell take a bath before the meal, so she reluctantly complies and ultimately enjoys the feast. At the guild, it is revealed that Johann couldn't butcher the dragon, so William directs them to the guildmaster in Dolan where it can be done. As such, the crew bid farewell to their newfound friends in the kingdom and continue their journey.